Welcome. Hello to everyone. My name is Andy Fawkes. I'm the Special Correspondent for Halldale Military Simulation Training Publication, or MS&T. I'm delighted to be chairing this event, which has been organised by the European Training and Simulation Association, or ETSA, and kindly hosted today by ST Engineering Antisip. We have well over 100 participants registered, and I want to welcome you to all to this online event. Many in this audience are naturally from Europe, but we also have attendees from much further afield. So good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to you all. We will be recording the event, but please treat it as an interactive event, as we have a superb lineup of speakers, and this is a great opportunity to interact with them. What we're here to do is to help support the European training and simulation community with what I think capturing strategic insights on the way forward as we emerge from the pandemic, albeit unevenly if we look in a global perspective, of course. It comes from an industry perspective, small, medium and large, with perhaps a military bias, but I think it is relevant to everyone in the community, customers and suppliers, and as you will see, relevant to beyond Europe. I myself have been in training and simulation community for over 20 years now, both in government and industry, and I think it is truly an interesting and important time as customers seek ever faster, cheaper and better training. And as many of the underlying technologies commoditize and mature, particularly as the pandemic has accelerated the digitization of many activities, just like this event today. So it is a truly exciting time, full of opportunity to transform training. But also many of the enduring challenges do remain, such as technical support, supply of qualified instructors, and long-term security of supply. So that will exercise many customers and suppliers, no doubt. So onto the event format. So hopefully the next slide. Was a tense moment. Great stuff. So we'll have an ETSA video, which I'll introduce in a minute, but then we will have 3 pre-recorded videos. Each video will give you, the audience, an appreciation of each company, and also you will hear the thoughts of these industry leaders. After the videos, which probably will be in around 45 minutes, we will go live and we will have a panel discussion that will be driven by you, the audience. So please do ask questions as we go along. There's a Q&A box. There's a question mark, which I think is fairly obvious. You click on that, and we will curate questions as the event continues. So please ask questions anytime, and please ask them if you do have a specific question for a specific speaker. Then please, annotate it in that way, and of course, do ask general questions. Before we hear from our first speaker, I want to share with you a 3-minute video from ETSA, which explains what ETSA is, for those who don't know, and what it can do for you in the community. So we'll just play the video, fingers crossed for that. Thank you.
Welcome to this short presentation about ETSA. We are the European Training and Simulation Association. Our aim is to be the European voice of the modelling, simulation and training community. ETSA membership is open to the widest possible diversification of individuals and organisations within the MS&T community. We are open to individuals, industry, academia, military personnel, government agencies, medical and healthcare specialists, first responders, members associations, and media and event providers. To be a member, all you need is to reside in Europe, operate within Europe or trade with Europe, or are able to demonstrate a significant professional interest in training, education, modelling or simulation in Europe. ETSA's greatest benefit to its members is by providing networking opportunities for those involved within the community. Indeed, our key principle of membership is to facilitate connecting you with other members, industry peers, potential clients, business opportunities, and other associate organisations. To facilitate this, members have unique access to the ETSA membership portal, which provides a one-stop shop for live MS&T specific newsfeed, blogs, forums, member-to-member messaging, and future events listings. The portal also includes a members bulletin board, data repository, and a comprehensive MS&T organisations searchable database of over 2,000 companies worldwide. In terms of other communications, members receive regular ETSA newsletters and informative weekly mail shots emailed to you and your nominated recipients within your organisation. Members receive discount on attendance at MS&T conferences and events, those run by ETSA, IQPC, SMI, Royal Aeronautical Society, and several other European and worldwide event providers. There are two ways to apply for ETSA membership. You can do so manually by completing a paper-based form, or go online through our website and membership portal. Payments can be made online using major credit cards, via bank transfers, or by cheque. Thank you for listening, and we hope to hear from you very soon.
Fantastic. So, and details of ETSA will be left at the end. So on to, thank you for that very much. So on to our first speaker, one of number three, of three speakers. So I'm very delighted to welcome Quentin Blancheri, who's the key account manager at ST Engineering Anticip. He joined Anticip in the French office in 2018 as a key account manager dedicated to simulation. Previously, he worked in a technology startup, and then he was in charge of the business development for an SME with a strong focus on the healthcare market. And with the Paris Brain Institute, he managed a pioneering project helping Parkinson or Alzheimer affected patients to fight the neurological disorder. And he also closed multiple projects on health practitioner training. Now working with ST Engineering Anticip, Quentin is focused on a project within the French MOD and affiliated defence major accounts on simulation activity, both on the software and hardware sides. He has a marketing diploma from the ISTEC Paris Business School. So thank you very much. We're now going to we'll hear from him later live, but now if we can just roll the video, thank you very much.
Hello everyone, I'm Quentin Blancheri and I'm working for ST Engineering Anticip as a key account manager. I'm focused on projects with the French Ministry of Defense and affiliated defense major account on both the simulation and virtual reality activity of the company. Those activities consist of both software with customer off-the-shelf 3D models, terrains and specific development, and also hardware with projection system, simulator, head-mounted display or civilian customer off-the-shelf simulator. I'm proud to be invited today for this first European Training and Simulation Association webinar. In accordance with today's thematic, I worked with the different countries Anticip is based in order to gather our perspective on the challenges, impacts and opportunities of the pandemic on our simulation industry in Europe. Anticip, as some of you may know, is a French company founded in 1996, formerly known as Anticip Simulation. We are owned by ETSA Engineering since 2008. Pioneer and leader in customer off-the-shelf solution during the last 25 years, we are now approximately 45 people with a turnover over around 20 million euro in 2020. Our headquarters is based near Paris, France, and we've got offices in the United Kingdom near Oxford, in Italy, Milan, and in Spain, Barcelona. Thanks to those offices, we are currently working in all the European peninsula. What we do is simple. We create virtual reality, visual display and simulation solutions for our many customers. We've got expertise on software, hardware and middleware both in VR and simulation. We generally work from the consultation to the design and architecture, leading to the installation and maintenance over time of the systems. Anticip gets specific teams in each country working both on the hardware and software side. Generally speaking, we are working with COTS product in order to deliver fully finished or just a portion of a project. With a balance of 60% of activity on the military market against 40% within the civilian one, we have a broad expertise of the simulation and VR market across the globe. Anticip is working with all the Ministry of Defense and affiliated public companies across Europe. Depending on the market, we are to work with large companies such as Thales, Airbus, Leonardo or MBDA for example. But we are also working with a lot of civilian companies such as Red Bull, Renault, Jaguar, Unilever or many universities and research centers across Europe. Sometimes we are going to deliver full systems or just a tiny portions to a bigger player who will in turn integrate it to his final customer. We don't see the current situation so bad when compared to other industry sectors. In fact, the 2020 fiscal year was the best Anticip ever made, with 80% of turnover thanks to military projects. But it was also thanks to previous years of hard work from every offices. Business could worsen at short or mid-term. COVID is still strong and the economic impact are not known yet in our industry. If you look back at all the previous economic crises, the impact was delayed up to 3 or 4 years afterward depending on your markets. The economical situation will continue to go down for sure in certain areas of the economy, and consequently the government budget will decrease and the military budget should also be impacted. Nonetheless, the uncertainty in the Mediterranean or Asian Sea and the threat from all powerful and new emerging countries are perceived by certain governments as a means to not decrease or even increase their budget. It also means that they need to stay fully capable to act, and it benefits our training and simulation industry. New and already launched programs such as the Next Generation Fighter, the MGCS, or for example in France, the new aircraft carrier create also opportunity for simulation ahead of the creation of those new programs. The lack of live events like ETEC or ETSEC at the international stage was perceived as a real shortage, even if the impact of their cancellation cannot be fully assessed yet. We saw also, for example, in France, the impact of our French Simulation Association that organized events with the French Ministry of Defense and Industrial. The last event of this association was in January 2020. We hope that the next live event will be organized by the end of the year. In those events, you not only talk to your customers, partners or competitors, but you also touch the next technologies and meet the new person coming in the simulation industry. The relationship we were able to establish by simply talking during an event, going to the restaurant, and simply go on site to meet new person is at red. We have also realized the limits of virtual events. Efficiency for presentation, talks, and meetings is real. When was the last time you shook someone's hands you didn't know? I cannot remember it myself. Nothing can replace human contact. Training and simulation will ever continue to make progresses as we have always done in the past, during the last centuries and this one, in adopting and using technologies coming from other domains such as information technology, graphical display, artificial intelligence, game technology, cloud capabilities, VR, AR, mixed reality and more. Just have a look at those two simulators we built for the French Navy. You can see the huge difference between the one from 2013 and earlier and the one from 2018 and after. We see that COTS are evolving and adapting quickly to the new challenges imposed by those new technology. It doesn't change, but the adoption of COTS in simulation is still going strong and is impacting our business in a good way. New human generation are also clearly more and more aware of technological possibilities and would like to benefit of the same level of technology in their day work than in personal activity and social surrounding. The adoption of cloud computing, remote working, gaming technologies and the VR AR are excellent examples. In addition, simulation is now really well perceived not only for experimenting but also as a good value for training, thanks to the continuous improvement and its less and less expensiveness, mainly true from live and virtual training and simulation. We think that the COTS industry has a bright future. Building future training and simulation systems will need more and more dedicated product of high-end quality and high fidelity. Our customers want real physics on real terrain using real ballistics, radar, etc. Typical examples are modeling physics-based systems, radar, IR devices for example, graphical models, simulation architecture, artificial intelligence library. All those building blocks will need to be open, consistent, capable and complementary. What is interesting is that our customers do not hesitate to use multiple COTS mixed to their internal solution to achieve their goal. New companies should emerge and existing ones should make progress. It's already a case of startups in the VR and AR area, for example, that are coming with bright ideas, develop something with little to no resources, then sell it or are acquired by bigger companies. Then more and more good companies may emerge with specific talents and skills, knowing well their specific product. Building new systems will need cooperation between companies. In order to work together, we need the compliance with international interoperability standards that already exist or will be developed. It is imperative. Supporting the international standard developing organization stays as a first priority. There is little probability that new systems are developed by unique companies. The future industry organization will be a consortium of small or medium-sized or even big companies with complementary skills. We already see it when answering tenders. The governments like, more often than not, the consortium of competitors putting their expertise and strength together. To conclude, after a difficult period, and we are still in unfortunately, we hope that it will finish soon. There is a clear need to reinforce knowledge and cooperation between companies while monitoring the emergence and evolution of smart technologies. Resuming our professional event in the world and in Europe is of paramount importance. Of equal importance is the dynamism of corporate association at European level and country level. ETSA could federate national organizations who have suffered from the present pandemic crisis and give them a new dynamism. It's also a link now between Europe and UK because of the Brexit. I would like to thank ETSA for the organization of these events and the opportunity to speak with you today. Thank you all for taking the time to listening. I look forward to the Q&A session with you.
Fantastic. So thank you so much for that. Without further ado, we'll move to our second video. You're going to hear from Arthur Alexian, who's the Chief Executive Officer for Bohemia Interactive Simulations, or BI-Sim. You'll see a short little video about Bohemia for those who don't know, and then Arthur's thoughts. You'll hear from Arthur on his thoughts of the future. So Arthur joined Bohemia in 2013. He acts as the final decision maker on all non-board matters and interfaces with Riverside, who are the company's majority owner, and sets the overall strategy and operational direction. Arthur is passionate about maximising the use of their products and proud of their ability to deliver to their customers what they like to see as innovative and cost-effective simulation software for a whole number of training use cases. Arthur has a deep experience in growing entrepreneurial companies. That's very important for this. And over the past 15 years, he has been senior executive or board member on a number of highly successful enterprises in media and technology. Prior to his first entrepreneurial venture, Arthur worked for McKinsey & Company very well known, I guess, world leading consultancy firm, and for Pricewaterhouse. Arthur has an MBA with distinction from INSEAD in France and a first-class mathematics degree from Durham University. So absolutely fantastic to get Arthur's views today. So first, we're going to show the video now, and then we'll hear from Arthur in person in a few more minutes' time. So let's roll the video, which is about 10 minutes. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you to ETSA for inviting me to speak today. My name is Arthur Alexion. I'm privileged to have been working in the simulation space since 2012 as the CEO of a company called Bohemia Interactive Simulations, which we usually shorten to BISIM. BISIM has been a leading provider of training software to military organizations around the world for over 20 years. We develop high-fidelity, cost-effective training and simulation software products by leveraging a large internal team of technical staff and by incorporating as much technology as we can from related software and data handling industries, such as the video game and geospatial sectors. Our product portfolio encompasses desktop tactical training, simulation host, image generation, and terrain editing and management, as well as obviously SDKs. BISIM's products are used in over 60 countries and by over 300 integrators. We're privileged to count among our customers the US Army, the US Marine Corps, UK MOD, French MOD, and all major NATO militaries. Our flagship product, VBS4, is an easy-to-use, whole-earth, virtual and constructive simulation. VBS4 can also function as a simulation host. It features a MilSim-specific whole-earth game engine called VBS Blue and a fully featured simulation engine built on top of VBS Blue with over 1,500 features supporting roughly 200 military-specific use cases. A cutting-edge terrain management product, VBS World Server, comes free with VBS4, as does a vast content library of over 18,000 models. As a company, we are constantly trying to serve our customers better, both by improving our existing products and scanning the wider technology landscape to utilize new advancements. From cloud computing to XR to motion tracking, we aim to be on the leading edge of integrating these new relevant technologies from outside the core defense sector to improve training capability, ease of use, and of course to reduce costs. At BISIM, we aim to offer our customers the best of both worlds. On the one hand, cost-effective and proven off-the-shelf products, and on the other hand, customized software capabilities matching our customers' exacting training requirements. Please visit our website bisimulations.com or email us at sales@bisimulations.com to request further information or a demo. Turning to today's topic, the future of European simulation and training and how we see it evolving. Firstly, I thought it would be helpful to look at the evolution of the macro level technology environment. And by that, I mean all of the surrounding technology which is developing outside the military simulation space, but is suited to be repurposed and applied to our industry. We see the innovation of the past continuing onwards into the future, so we anticipate massive growth in speed of connectivity and high levels of technical innovation in the coming years. Over the last 20 years, the microchip has increased its processing power by over 1,000 times. We expect that to continue. Similarly, graphics cards are advancing at a rapid pace. Peripherals like motion platforms and tracking devices are showing the benefits of massive amounts of investment and innovation. VR and MR headsets are evolving quickly, with newer, better versions replacing old ones at an unrelentingly rapid pace. And cloud computing is also evolving and maturing at speed. Both Microsoft and Google cloud services only recently celebrated their 10th anniversaries, and we expect both to continue to massively innovate both in their technologies and in their customer offerings over the coming years. Just like in computing, internet speed has increased at a breakneck pace, with 400 times growth in commercial internet speeds over the last 14 years. The proliferation of fiber, of 5G, the launch of 6G, and faster backbone technology is set to drive similar growth rates in the future. The same dramatic advancements have also happened on the software and data side of simulation. There's been huge growth in access to terrain data, driven by technology advancements such as sensor resolution improvements, miniaturization, and drone technology. And this has created a tsunami of new terrain data sources which need to be tapped into and adapted for use in simulation. Massive investment and innovation in the entire software industry and in the video game sector in particular has spilled over into unimaginable improvements in software capabilities. We expect all of that to continue too. The super exciting observation about where we are now is that many of these technologies are reaching maturity. They're just about ready to be used extensively in military simulation. One example, the Vario headset resolution is now good enough so a wearer can read the vehicle heads-up display. Another example is motion sensor technology, which is now robust enough to send movements to a virtual avatar with no noticeable time lag. The period 2021 to 2025 is when we believe all these technologies will really make their impact on the military simulation industry. And the impact will be cumulative. Software advances can be married with new VR headsets to create highly credible training devices. Meanwhile, terrain data can be administered centrally, stored in the cloud, and passed down fast internet connections to any site which needs it. So, for example, a helicopter trainer in Germany can connect over the internet with a squad of dismounted VR-wearing soldiers in a facility in Fort Bragg, USA, so they can train together. This all means the best practice in building simulation capability is now based around taking advantage of all that is available without heavy investment. This includes COTS hardware, already available terrain data, and software which is already proven and built out. And these components are delivered and deployed always with the idea that everything needs to be upgradable and everything in future will connect through a network, whether private or public. This is where we are now today in 2021. It is a truly exciting time. We expect that the next 5 years will be a period when we switch from prototyping new technologies to actually deploying solutions at scale. We'll likely see VR trainers installed on aircraft carriers, allowing instant access to an entire globe of terrain data to rehearse missions wherever necessary. Virtual training environments will feature much richer urban environments simulated at scale and in detail. Large combined arms operations will be simulated in full 3D environments, and importantly, all of this capability will be more widely available. It will be much easier to use without engineers and technicians needing to be involved, and suitably realistic AI will replace non-trainee role players. Above all else, we're excited about the possibility of the cloud. Internally, we talk about this in two parts. Cloud deployment, that means pushing the simulation and most of the scene rendering to the cloud, and cloud processing, which we define as sharing the simulation and rendering calculations between different cloud-based processors. Cloud deployment will allow BISIM to deliver our simulation engine, our user interfaces, and our configured content to the training point of need. At the same time, it will allow us to centralize terrain management and other more complex tasks. Cloud processing will allow our simulation engine to scale, and we expect that by 2022, we should be able to simulate at a sufficient scale for battalion and brigade level exercises in urban environments. And there will be many other companies out there which will also be able to supercharge their simulation capabilities by leveraging the cloud in a similar way. Looking at Europe specifically, we are privileged that our technology is deployed at scale in most European NATO countries. So we see a lot of different micro-level innovation with with subtly different approaches country by country. Some are leaning forward into cloud-based approaches to simulation. Others are sticking to a more localized approach, but still taking advantage of new innovations. For example, investing heavily into prototyping of new devices like VR headsets, which are massively reducing cost of future simulators and will either allow wider deployment or future cost savings. Overall, we see Asia, Europe and the US as all stepping forward to take advantage of various aspects of the current and near future technology, and we expect lessons learned and innovations to be shared reasonably rapidly between regions over the next few years. So, what is the business opportunity in the medium to long term? We see three key opportunities. Firstly, exploiting the cloud to supercharge existing capabilities. Secondly, tracking all the hardware advances and working with forward-thinking countries to integrate this new hardware with our software to create small footprint, flexible and internet-connected training devices. And lastly, collaborating with as many surrounding technologies and companies as possible so our customers have a choice at a component level and can select best-of-breed components for themselves. Ultimately, our industry must keep pushing the limits of simulation training. By doing so, simulation becomes an essential precursor to live training and leads to higher warfighter performance. Some countries are already thinking in this direction, such as the UK. As you can see from this screen quote, the UK have publicly announced a paradigm shift to virtual before live, and an intention to use live training to consolidate and confirm skills learnt in a simulated environment. And through innovations such as augmented reality, this pushing of boundaries will further extend simulation to an increasingly important part of live training itself. The massive $21 billion IVAS investment the US Army recently announced into Microsoft's HoloLens technology is a clear indicator that this is where the convergence of virtual and live training is headed. Ultimately, I suppose, the simulation industry should be aiming for all countries to have the same mantra as the UK. The way to gently encourage our customers in the direction of virtual before live is innovation and inclusion of as many surrounding technology advancements as we can. So, in conclusion, BISIM is positioning itself for a move away from prototyping and towards deployment of many new technologies enabled by cloud and internet advancements. And to remain relevant, the MilSim industry is going to need to embrace the new world of COTS hardware, modular flexible software, and the cloud. Thank you.
Great stuff. So great stuff. So very much looking forward to speaking to Arthur in a few minutes. Our final video is from Thales, from David Head. David is the head of strategic partnerships for Thales for their training and simulation business line. David has worked for Thales for over 30 years, with a brief period in 2007 working for Virgin Atlantic Airways Engineering. He is currently enjoying developing a new role, which is the head of strategic partnerships within the international Thales training and simulation business line. As well as developing long-term strategic partnerships as part of this role, David also covers the segment marketing opportunities for the business line. Previously, David has successfully concluded periods of the head of new business and general manager, combat air and maritime sector. In that role, he had responsibility for delivery, development and support of domestic and international business for combat air and maritime training solutions. His current business portfolio spans the entire range of Thales's synthetic training products and turnkey services with an internationally diverse customer base. David's extensive experience in the simulation industry includes being the project manager for key and relevant projects for Hawk and F-16 platforms. In addition, David was the senior project manager responsible for the delivery of Thales's first private finance initiative, or PFI, which was the training service for the UK Royal Air Force's Tornado GR4 fleet. And that comprised building facilities, 3 full mission simulators and supplementary devices across 2 training sites in the UK. And more recently, he was instrumental in establishing the contract for the delivery of the RAF's high G test and training facility at RAF Cranwell, which is now delivering vital safety training for the RAF fast jet aircrew. Also, great is his enthusiasm for aviation and training extends into his spare time. And he was formerly a senior gliding instructor at 615 Volunteer Gliding Squadron, which was RAF Kenley, and he remains an active flight lieutenant at the Royal Air Force Cadets, teaching aviation and leadership skills to RAF Air Cadets. So fantastic broad experience there from David, and I'm looking forward to listening to his to the video from Thales now and from David, which is going to start very soon. Thank you.
Hello, my thanks for the kind introduction by our webinar chairperson today. And as stated, I'm David Head, and I'm currently Head of Strategic Partnerships for the Training Simulation business line for Thales. I'm delighted to be invited to speak to you today for the inaugural European Training and Simulation Association webinar. In line with today's theme, I'll trust I'll be able to outline to you the Thales perspectives on the challenges and the opportunities that lie ahead for our industry in the post-pandemic future for the European training simulation world. Additionally, as a business that operates across European borders, I will also provide a brief insight to the impacts, if any, of Brexit. Thales, in its various historic incarnations such as Link Miles, Rediffusion and Thomson CSF, has been operating at the leading edge of simulation training for over 80 years. From the early innovations of basic flight instrument trainers through wide area visual displays and 6-axis motion system to today's fully immersive and distributed systems, Thales has seen many changes and overcome many market challenges. However, without using overused cliches, the last few years have seen a rate of change and challenge that is set to reshape the market for some years to come. I'm not just talking about the impacts of the pandemic or Brexit, but also of the already underlying trends that were affecting our market, such as the commoditisation of once bespoke training equipments, the reduced reliance, certainly in the military world, of high fidelity full flight simulators, such as the one behind me here, to a rapid transition to online, on-demand, learn anywhere training cultures. So to set our business context, Thales is a global high technology leader investing in digital and deep tech innovations, including connectivity, big data, artificial intelligence, cybersecurity and quantum technology, to build a future we can all trust, which is vital to the development of our societies. Thales employs over 80,000 people in 68 countries, generating on average 19 billion euros worth of sales annually, and investing over 1 billion euros in research and development. The Thales diverse portfolio covers 5 sectors: digital identity and security, defence and security, aerospace, space, and ground transportation. Within the Thales Group structure, the Training and Simulation business line employs around 1,000 people who operate across 4 main competence centres in 4 countries: Australia, France, Germany and the UK, as well as 12 training centres and joint ventures globally. Our current mission is to offer customers the means to improve training processes through high fidelity, high-end simulators and training services, providing the best solution to improve mission readiness and ensure each mission is a success. The areas we work in encompass civil helicopter pilot training, military training solutions and centres for air, naval and land forces, and critical domains such as nuclear energy power plant simulation. We are increasingly using our capabilities in the field of model-based systems engineering, or as some people call them, digital twins. Overall, Thales is driven by the belief that science and technology can provide considerable society benefits, and that the impact of the pandemic, whilst severe for many and clearly a devastating tragedy, is likely to present similarly advantageous challenges and benefits as we emerge from it. That said, Thales has not escaped disruption to production chains and projects, with the company's civil aeronautics business recording a 45% sales slump in the third quarter of last year. Therefore, in 2020, Thales introduced a global transformation plan to strengthen its resilience and to maintain its production capacity to serve its customers, limit the financial and industrial impact of this crisis, and strengthen its funding capacity in the event that the crisis persisted or worsened. And the group went well beyond its plan in this respect. For training and simulation within Thales, the first challenge of the outbreak of the pandemic was to ensure we could maintain continuity and deliver our customer needs throughout, many of whom were operating key operational training for the national efforts in support of measures against the pandemic, for instance the A400M transportation of medical goods. This was further challenged by the simple fact that each of our operating nations had necessarily different rules, regulations and timeframes for combating the spread of the virus. However, I am pleased to say that in the training and simulation business within Thales, we were able to deploy a global virtual operating model that enabled a pretty much seamless transition to remote working, and have supported our customer base throughout. By deploying a high percentage of our office-based workforce to remote working, enabled sufficient space and protection on our sites for the manufacturing and engineering team to continue to work on physical equipment, and for our training services to continue unabated once the necessary social distancing and personal protection equipment were put in place. However, not only were we able to continue, we went a step further and deployed our capabilities in support of the campaign against COVID-19. In France, using our 3D printing capabilities to deliver much needed personal protection equipment to hospitals in the Paris region, and in the UK, using our procurement and assembly capabilities to assist in the production of 14,000 ventilator devices, and then rapidly developing online training modules for training the UK National Health Service employees in the use of a number of ventilators. That last example of online training demonstrates the trends that the industry represented within the ETSA community needs to adapt to in the coming years. Either out of necessity or preference, people want on-demand training and immersive simulation at a time, place and pace of their choosing. We sort of already knew that, but the COVID-19 pandemic has somewhat ironically simply accelerated people's acceptance and recognised value of online, individual and modularised training. Additionally, a harsh reality for our industry is that as platforms become more autonomous, then the need for highly immersive simulation will reduce in favour of more training in information interpretation and systems operation. This further lends itself to a transition away from high-end devices to commodity-based solutions. So what does this mean for members of the ETSA community and the simulation industry within Europe? Well, panic not. The need for high-fidelity devices will not disappear overnight, but they will form part of a blended solution that will increasingly use off-the-shelf commodity products such as, but not limited to, virtual, augmented and mixed reality goggles. Our business will therefore add its value in the training content and delivery rather than the technologies themselves. Additionally, the ability to gather data on both results and human behaviours throughout the training and exploit that data to create individualised training journeys will become the go-to requirement for our future customers. This direction of travel has long-term implications for those organisations that operate within the ETSA community and its mission. Firstly, to achieve this more blended solution, our customers will rightly demand more interoperability between our delivered systems, not just in terms of physical equipment, but also content and data output they will want to buy once and use many times. This requires continued cooperation between our respective businesses to continue to agree common standards and interfaces for both legacy and emerging technologies. This is an area that ETSA can provide an independent think tank capability for the collective good of us all. Secondly, as the industry pivots towards new approaches to training, we will need a harmonised vision, not one that sits behind any single proprietary solution, but one that collectively we agree upon, and that allows us all to grow and exploit the benefits, to deliver excellence for our customers, and in a world of training and simulation. And so to my third point, which is to recognise that we are in a business where technology base needs to evolve faster than our customers' cost base will allow. So we can no longer afford to master all of the technologies we need in our solutions, thus need to turn to the more high volume, commercially viable and diverse commodity markets for elements of our blended solutions. This inevitably means a shift in the makeup of the European training and simulation community. It's time to look again at those skills and building blocks that will have the highest value to our customers and how we better structure and interoperate them across our industry community. The market will be looking for new ways to train, integrating new technologies such as virtual reality and artificial intelligence tools, and also to integrate means to certify that pilots have the right skills and abilities to fly using human performance monitoring with data capture and analytics. ETSA requirements now extend to how pilots are improving both their technical and behavioural competencies, so we need to adapt our solutions accordingly. The continuum between live training and simulator training is vital, and the ability to integrate real flight and simulator data to provide an objective view of a trainee pilot's capabilities is vital. For civil and military operators alike, this also has economic implications, as it's important to select the right path for the right people, so the instructor has the ability to assess how good each trainee is and how far they can go. Across our military markets, mission success is the main byword, and this is synonymous with certification, especially when flying an aircraft, but also has technical and collective skills requirements. What is at stake for us is to improve the capacity of training for a mission on increasingly complex platforms by ensuring the fidelity and representation of sensors to improve the collective aspects of the mission, and to be objective in the analysis of the exercise to facilitate debriefing. Another major trend is the move towards hybrid training approach, or LVC, live virtual constructive. As we know, this combines live training using real assets with virtual resources, i.e. simulation, and constructive techniques, which is the addition of synthetic entities to the scenarios to create immersive situations. With so much emphasis on reducing the costs and environmental impact of collective training, coupled with the importance of collaborative combat, there is a definite shift in the direction of where LVC is needed to create, prepare and execute complex scenarios. The final major lever for our cooperative activities is the identification of simulation as a key pillar for large-scale defence programmes, such as the European Future Combat Air System or the UK's Tempest Combat Air Programme, to support the development and ensure capacity alignment. Whilst on the subject of large international programmes, it's worth a brief point on Brexit. As a pan-European, indeed global company, Thales complies with all international import and export regulations, as well as attaining regulatory certification for its many product portfolios across the world. So it approached Brexit in much the same way. In the run-up to the United Kingdom's departure from the European Union, Thales undertook a number of mitigating activities and worked closely with suppliers, government organisations and regulatory authorities to ensure a smooth transition. So as such, we have not seen a noticeable impact of Brexit on our operations at this time. Yes, there's a little more paperwork and things require a bit more planning, but that is no different to working with any other non-EU country. Like most companies, the COVID-19 pandemic presents far greater challenges to our business than Brexit. So how is Thales approaching the future? Under the banner of a framework concept we call Aircrew Next, we are taking a holistic approach. Aircrew Next is a framework for developing a new approach across all aspects of training using 5 key pillars of capability: the individual learning journey, data analytics with digital trust, collective competence including hybrid and LVC training, trusted artificial intelligence, and innovation exploitation. And here you see a representation of our teaming with Aralis, an innovative UK startup company developing a modular aircraft to support end-to-end training. Through these pillars, Thales, along with its partners, will be able to deliver excellence in aircrew performance with an effective individual learning journey, exploiting emerging technologies such as AI and human performance monitoring to harness the power of data in support of advanced learning techniques. In broader terms, the Thales Group's wider capabilities in cyber and cloud infrastructure through acquisitions in the digital arena such as Gemalto and Cybernetics have a role to play here. It is also about recognising the importance of having a flexible and adaptable mindset in designing the training architectures of the future. Aircrew Next is inclusive for all aircrew disciplines, and whilst the focus of today is primarily on military aircrew, all these 5 pillars of capability are equally relevant to all other military domains and civil aircrew training. As a continuous evolution, our Aircrew Next journey and that of our industry will never end. Today we are looking at the benefits of human performance monitoring, AI-driven CGFs, virtual and AI instructor monitoring tools, and of course virtual, augmented and mixed reality platforms. The challenge for us all is to use technologies that add value to training, not use technologies just because we can. This holistic approach has benefits for us all, but most of all provides a value-add offering for our collective customers, which of course is the objective of the ETSA community. To conclude, at the centre of all our future activities, we should acknowledge and be proud that the growth in our industry through increased use of synthetics will have a highly positive impact on our environment. Our industry has evolved over the years to keep in line with the training needs of our end users and the equipment that they operate. The future will be no different, but we must adapt perhaps faster and more economically than ever before. A key to this will be the ability to further agree interoperability standards, data and ways of working, but also recognise that the cognitive approach to learning and the societal environment has also changed. More flexible, adaptable and collaborative means are needed to address the individual learning journey to be able to learn what you want, where you want, when you want. This means that as a community we must also create solutions that will operate seamlessly together and share data in common forms to give our customers the experience they need. It's through collaboration with organisations such as ETSA we can collectively and profitably achieve this. I'd like to thank ETSA for the opportunity to speak to you today, and thank you all for taking the time to listen. I really look forward to our upcoming Q&A session alongside my fellow speakers, and I'm now pleased to hand back to our webinar chairperson.
Sorry, I was bound to make that error, not turning my mic on. Okay, so we've had 3, I think, fantastic videos, and in a sense, have covered sort of the full spectrum of industry in terms of small through to large, and also with the backgrounds of the speakers, you know, the considerable depth and breadth of experience. So this really is a fantastic opportunity to get their insights, and we have a few questions coming in, but first I just need to make sure we can bring in our panel. If they'd like to turn their cameras and audio on, that would be fantastic. Great. So yeah, so we've got everyone, which is fantastic. So thank you, gentlemen, and we're, just so everyone knows, we're live now. So we're and in various parts of the world. So and I've been live throughout. You probably could tell by my humming and ahhing. Okay, so there is a question coming in about cooperation and so forth, and looking to how people work together. Obviously, gents, you've got a lot of experience in terms of working with other companies, but let's pretend they're not a competitor. What advice would you give to a company wanting to join this kind of space in terms of working with customers, finding partners to work with, and indeed, you know, what are the things that ETSA could perhaps do to do that kind of matchmaking? So I don't know who would like to start on that one. David, I mean, just fresh from your last video, perhaps we'll start there. You know, the large company, how do you kind of reach out to perhaps smaller ones and find out, you know, about their technology and whether it could be useful to you and your customers?
I think the most good afternoon, everybody. I hope everybody's well. The most important thing in any relationship moving forward is transparency. And from the outset, if all the parties involved can, you know, make it very clear what it is they would like out of the relationship, it's then much easier to formulate a partnership, because you're aware of where you have overlaps, because there will be overlaps. You're aware of where there are potential conflicts, but you can deal with those. And you know, having an organisation like ETSA to be that mediator, if you like, of common standards and approaches and processes, you know, can really help. But the most important thing, I think, really is just total transparency. And all of the partnerships that I have, you know, successfully worked with have started from that premise, and that includes with the customer as well. You know, we all have shareholders. You know, we all have to return a bottom line that we're all comfortable with, and we should recognise that and not be afraid of it. But just ensure that it's clear from the outset as to what everybody wants from the relationship, and then be honest. You know, if there clearly are too larger overlaps or conflicts, then, you know, we're all human beings. Politely go our separate ways, but don't start out in a defensive way.
Thank you so much, David. Gents, Arthur or Cantor, any other thoughts on that about reaching out to, you know, potential partners and so forth?
Sure, I can give you a few thoughts. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
So first of all, Quentin and David, thank you. I thought both your presentations were excellent, really interesting. Yeah, so BISM's approach to partnerships is everybody is, as David said, kind of a potential friend. We want to kind of work with everybody if we can. We try to reach out to, we work directly with governments. We regularly work through many of the prime contractors who work with governments, including obviously Thales. And we love finding new companies to work with as well, particularly from outside the MilSim space. It doesn't mean we exclusively, we don't look for people within the MilSim space, but certainly working with new innovative companies in the video game space, in the geospatial industry and other industries, because often those guys don't have something to offer, but don't have a good route to market, because government customers are quite tricky to deal with, and there's all sorts of boxes you need to tick and so on. So we love acting as that kind of middleman if we can, and playing around with all the new technology which is out there. So you know, we have a number of headsets in our demo lab which are the only headset outside the manufacturer themselves, for example, and we love making sure our technology works with all the different headsets, all the different scalability frameworks out there, from, you know, Improbable and Hadean and the other ones out there as well, and try to make sure that we work with all the different cloud computing offerings and so on and so forth. So we try to reach out to everybody, and we love to engage with companies. And I think for me the most interesting thing is being able to at least do a little bit without customer funding, because that gets you one step forward beyond just, oh yeah, they've got interesting technology, we've got some interesting technology, maybe we could do something together. There's nothing like actually working together a little bit to really cement the relationship.
As for my point of view, if I can, Anticip is a small company existing since 25 years, and partnering is a key for us. We are working sometimes against Thales, for example, on certain program, and sometimes we are working with them as a partner. It really depends, but most of the times you have to talk to everyone. You have to be aware of your surrounding, of your competitor, and of your partner, of what they can offer to you. As Arthur said, it's important to look at the small company coming, what they can offer, and their new technology, because they are offering a lot of new things that we have not seen yet in the industry. It's always good to talk to them. ETSA could help us, connect with those companies that are difficult to know. Apart from that, and I already said it on the pre-recorded video, but the events such as ETSA and national events, are really important and are key for us in order to connect and discuss, and also try and see new things, because it's the key,
I mean, on that point, I guess the theme of this has been the pandemic, or beyond the pandemic, optimistically. There's a question come in actually. We're a small company thinking about joining ETSA. Any advice we could have, and how do we make a good impression with existing companies, large or small? So I guess traditionally we've had shows, and I suppose those will continue, I guess, when we're allowed to meet up sometime soon now. But obviously there's also the virtual ways. Just be some thoughts on how do you make an impression in this business?
If I could pick up on the first one of that in terms of ETSA membership, if I may, Andy.
Yeah, sure.
The more the members put into our association, the more the members get out of the association. I see it as being, if you go and buy a membership for a gym for a year and then never attend the gym, you've not made any progress in your life. We find members get more out of being proactive with us, supporting us in their communications through our regular communications to the community, and being proactive with us when we have stands at events like ITEC and ITSEC. Promoting yourselves through ETSA, using our portal, which has access to over 2,000 SMEs and bigger companies, and all the contact details in there, and getting yourself into our regular communication forum is a way for you to be seen and for interaction and networking with the rest of our community.
Thank you, Ian. Is it about having a good stand at some of the shows, or is there any other advice you'd give, or to attract attention? I suppose you'd be a very successful PR person if you knew the answer to that. It's a tough business to get into.
I think
Sorry, go ahead, Dave.
Arthur, after you, Arthur.
Yeah, I think initially definitely coming in as a sub to bigger companies, and I would include BISIM as a bigger company, even though we're not that big. Experienced companies, let's say, is a good way to start, rather than trying to break in directly with the government. It can work sometimes. There are certain companies who have successfully got the interest of government directly. If you want to go direct to government, the route is there are in various countries kind of innovation funds of different types. So in Australia, they have something which is literally called the Innovation Fund. In the US, they have all these small business set-asides and little research grants all over the place. And it's all published in various websites and so on. And there's similar things in other countries as well. So one way is to go direct to government through these small funded R&D programs. And then secondly, coming in as a sub to more experienced companies. And, the way to do that is just make sure you've got something to show. I think most people react better to demonstrations than to slides. So dreams of the future are all very well and nice, but all of us here, I think Quentin and David and myself are going to be practical people who want to sell something in the next 24 months. Let's say we don't want to. If it was super exciting, maybe engage in something which is 5 years out. But generally, we want to be moving forward with something somewhat concrete, which was a theme actually for all three of us mentioned. David called it a commodity. I would prefer to call it COTS, because commodity sounds like it's cheap and cheerful. It's not necessarily cheap and cheerful. Yeah, so COTS products, so commercial off-the-shelf products rather than custom products. So, you know, that's the way things are moving. Everybody wants to be able to see what they're getting. And obviously that has huge advantages because there's no risk, because you can see what you're getting, you can trial it before you buy it. And that's true even at the subcontractor level, these small companies. Showing something, demonstrating something which is solid at some level, even if it's a prototype, is really, really helpful. And then the other thing is just engagement. So often we found with companies we've engaged with that very quickly they can't advance the technical engagement fast enough. So actually being able to commit a little bit of resource to actually doing something, do some kind of integration, some kind of technical prototyping project of some kind. Really, it can be very small, but doing something like that is also very helpful to engage our engineers. Because if my engineers are saying, we don't know what this is, we're not sure if it's good enough, obviously I'm just going to go to the next thing. So being concrete is important.
Thank you, Arthur. David?
Yeah, I'll just carry on Arthur's line of thought there, because I mean, I totally agree with everything he said. But from an end user's point of view, or a large prime receiving a piece of technology, tell me what the USP is and tell me what problem it is solving. Because, you know, we're all in, a lot of us are in this industry because the technology is really interesting, exciting, and keeps us energized. But whatever it is you're offering needs to solve a problem. It can't be technology just for technology's sake. So tell me what the training benefit that my end user customer will have as a result of this piece of technology. I spend, when I go to ITEC and ITSEC and all those shows, you know, when I'm not standing on the Thales stand doing my own marketing piece, most of my time you'll find me wandering around the smaller booths, around the peripherals of the exhibition, because that's where I find my energy from. That's where I find the interest in the technology, and then I can see the technology and look at it and how might I introduce it into a larger training service. So if you can do that bit of marketing for me and tell me what problem you're solving, then I'm going to be drawn to your stand, you know, a lot more. And likewise, reaching out virtually, do the same thing.
Thank you, David. I mean, related to that, a question has come in from Andrew Moon, who I believe is D3A Defence Limited, and about trying to match the technology with customer requirements. How do people find out what customers actually want? I suppose or what could customers do better to explain what they want, rather than just a specification that's already been written and it's a bit late in the day. Is there any thoughts on, you know, maybe ETSA could help governments say, you know, how do you express your requirements in a way that kind of would relate to new companies better, if that makes sense? I think I've tried to capture that. How do you find out what the military want, let's say, or, you know, even offshore energy or whatever? How do you know what they want?
Just talk to them, and, you know, how could ETSA help in that framework? Well, you know, open industry workshops where you get, you know, key customer personnel in to ask questions, and in an open environment without prejudice or anything like that. Because the only way you find out what your customer wants or needs is through dialogue. It comes back to that transparency thing I was saying earlier. You know, the more open we are at the start of a venture, then the more likely you are to succeed at the end. So it's about dialogue. That's simply that.
I mean, Arthur or Canton, got any thoughts on that? How do you know what customers want?
At Anticip level, it's mostly what David said. It's, you know, talking, speaking, exchanging, putting the requirement on some paper form, and doing workshop with the end user, the end customer. Generally speaking, it's what we do when we want to work on a bigger program, or on a bigger architecture. Is put everything on paper with the customer, be transparent, and you tell him the good ways, the bad ways, what will be expected if he do it one way or one other. And generally speaking, is how you keep it like how do you keep it like that? Is just talk to your customer or talk to the end user, and try not to involve too early the buyer or the guys at the top level, because there will be some reducing at some point.
Yeah, I think from our point of view, Bohemio, our experience is that we generally need, we have a whole team of people called technical sales support, who are people who are engineers, so engaging with the customer on an engineering level, and it's this, listen to what the customer wants. Some of the customers are very technical, but often they're more, as they should be in many ways, just use case orientated. So turning that into a technical proposal often requires talking to the customer, as previously been said, and having some people on your side who can actually say, okay, what you want is this, you want a tank doing the following thing. Turning that into a technical requirement often gets done on our side rather than the customer side. And I think that's the right approach, because there's different ways to skin a cat. There's different ways to make the technology do what the customer wants it to do. Ultimately, the customer in the end just wants somebody to come away with some learning experience at the end of some kind of training event, right? So they don't care how the technology, in a sense, the technology is secondary. They don't really care about that ultimately. Yeah, we often do a lot of that on our side, and we literally have accepted that the customer requirements are often not as technical as we would like, and so we actually engage with them on that. Both with big companies like Thales and also with end customers, because obviously we know our technology better than anybody else. So we're obviously the ones who can help imagine how our technology moves from an off-the-shelf product and then is adapted to a specific and very custom training need.
Okay, that's fantastic. Perhaps moving on, because time moves on. I think Arthur, in particular, you mentioned the cloud, and a question has come up about that. And I've recently done some work for DSD, actually looking at mainly from the gaming perspective, and I think you get to the point where, yeah, it's really amazing what is being done in gaming in terms of sharing innovation. But I'd just be grateful for your thoughts on, what the ministries of defence and departments of defences, etc., actually need to create, even if it's a private cloud. They need to actually create these things, and security is often mentioned. I just wonder how does the industry go from where we are now, where most systems are quite disconnected, it seems to me, within defences, to a world where you do have a kind of cloud type approach, where everything is connected, where everyone is connected who needs to be connected, so to speak. I'll just be grateful, because the question has come in about the cloud. I don't know whether you want to lead on that, Arthur.
Yeah, so some of the big guys are obviously getting quite interested in this. Microsoft, for example, are quite interested in getting into this area, and Google as well to some extent. So one of the things is working with the big cloud providers in partnership with them to try and figure out the right approach. I think the other thing is to watch the more advanced, the most ambitious and obviously richest countries in the world who have big budgets for this kind of thing. America, obviously, the US is obviously the big one. But but various countries are experimenting in different ways right now with different aspects of cloud. So I think one of the things is you don't need to do it all in one go, right? You can you can do it bit by bit. So for example, you can have a remote terrain server which is updating local instances with new versions of the terrain, and that can be an offline process which happens not at the runtime of the simulation itself, and therefore you can have a slower internet connection. You don't need to worry too much about the encryption you might need to put on the stream, and so on. Getting all the way to sending down, doing an exercise which is 200 different players in all sorts of different vehicles and dismounts and whatever that you're going to have in the scenario, and having those all remote and having all of those being sent down the wires at runtime is more tricky. So I think what it's going to happen incrementally. You have kind of offline processes first with synchronization type mechanism, then you get to certain parts of the data will be streamed down. So we're already streaming down terrain data. We actually have at runtime terrain data, which for example is streaming from Microsoft Bing. We're bringing it into ours live, and then we're streaming it out live to instances all over the world through the internet. We've already proved that's possible. It will happen step by step. There won't be some enormous leap suddenly to it. And I think trying to work in partnerships with the big cloud providers is going to be kind of a useful part of the puzzle as well, I think, because they need to be engaged by the governments in order to make it happen. I don't predict it's going to happen quickly. It's going to be a 5 to 10 year process before we get there, I suspect, but maybe I'll be proven wrong, but we'll see.
Are you seeing, David, any customer sort of desire to set up networks that are kind of cloud, that look like clouds at least, or behave like we're used to clouds at home?
Yes, I think every not just in the UK but globally, everybody is trying to get their systems into a virtual world. In the commercial world, a lot of this stuff is being looked at for commercial airlines, data coming on and off aircraft transatlantically. Thales is doing an awful lot in that area with air-to-ground communications and satellite stuff. But in the simulation and training industry, we do have kind of two conflicting requirements in effect. We've got a kind of multi-level security or cross-domain security issue, which is trying to ensure that we've got resilient passing of data, and that can slow things down. Versus, as Arthur just said, doing it in real time, because in some training scenarios, milliseconds matter. With various munitions being launched, etc. So I agree. I don't think there are many people looking at this. We can run off the back of some of the commercial activities, but ultimately we've got to address the multi-level security at real time, in order to fully exploit the benefits of the cloud. And that's not always fully recognized by end users, because everybody's used to having a phone in their pocket which has instant access to the cloud. But define instant access. You can tolerate the odd glitch that we might be getting on a virtual call like this, but you can't tolerate it in the simulation training world. So some way to go, I feel.
Canton, have you any ideas on do you get any customer kind of interest in the cloud at all?
Yes, at Anticipe we've got different sorts of customer interested in the cloud. There is both the government and the industrial, depending on their needs. The problem David said about the multi-level of encryption is really a problem that is not been solved really yet. It really differ between country. In the UK, they've got some solution. In France, they've got another point of view on that. For example, the French MOD is really interested in the cloud, but they want to keep it internally, so it's going probably to be a private cloud. but you know, it require huge investment, and it won't be for now. They are going to try it, you know, locally before going really live. It costs a lot for them to do that. And at the industry level, we are seeing that with Naval Group, for example. We have tried it a couple of times with them. We demonstrate the capability with some of the COTS product we are working with, such as the one from Mac Technologies, such as Arthur said, with mostly the data server, which is online and which will distribute, you know, all the data on site. This is working quite well. But for the other needs, such as the remote training with thousands of persons connected to a cloud, it's not happening right now. It may happen in the future, but it will really need a lot of investment and a lot of works in terms of encryption and security.
Fantastic. Yeah, time marches on. It's possible this is quite a meaty question, so it'll probably be the last question. My question is really what we as ETSA or the community can, you know, when discussing with customers, because I think, you know, if you speak to senior officers, military officers, say, I'm sure it's the same in other industries, they do want innovation for their people joining. They do. And you know, the enthusiasm for XR, which has been mentioned, is perhaps a great sign of that. But on the other hand, you know, procurement people will say, well, we actually do need suitably qualified, experienced personnel to manage the training over a long period of time. So I'll just be in the few minutes we've got left, views on how do customers get that long-term security supply, but also have innovation that they are kind of up to date with the latest sort of thinking. How do they contract for that in a few minutes? So I guess start with David. I guess you're kind of closest to that, perhaps as a big prime. So
it's, you know, most customers will say they want innovation, but they'll also say they want low risk. And again, those are kind of two mutually exclusive statements. Because to be at the cutting edge is sometimes the bleeding edge, you know, of technology. What I would say about what they should be asking for is innovation with a technology roadmap on the back of it that is attached to a SQEP profile as well. So, you know, we spent a lot of time, and I'm sure Talat isn't unique in this. We spent a lot of time looking at the strategic gap between today's human capabilities in terms of our human resources and what is required in the future. So it's both a technology roadmap and a SQEP roadmap. How do we ensure that we have longevity in the people as much as you do the technology? So provided that they do that and ask for it in that format, then that's okay. But they'll also look for low risk. So the only way you can do low risk is to have a mitigation plan that backs up your innovation.
Excellent answer. Thank you. Sorry, Arthur, you got any thoughts on that in terms of? I mean, I guess it applies because you have to support your software for a long period of time. So yeah.
Yeah. So my thought on that is, in the old days, I mean, David mentioned it in his video of having these high-end simulators being replaced by COTS-based simulators. One thing I would say to governments is be careful not to bank all the savings, right? What you don't want to do, in the old days, it was a 10-year program, one high-end simulator for 10 years, and it stays the same and maybe is upgraded once. Don't bank all the savings that you've made by using VR headsets. Put an extra budget in and refresh every 2 to 3 years, right? Because then you have, first of all, you have something current every 2 to 3 years. It might be more work for procurement, but you know, I think you should potentially put together a 10-year contract, but have 3 technology refreshes in that 10 years, so that each 2 years you can have a new headset. And that actually gets around some of the risks of, you can always buy one slightly old generation headset. You don't need to buy the very latest if you're worried about it being bleeding edge rather than cutting edge, it's well proven. It's been in the marketplace for 6 months, and you can definitely use that one. And so I would say, you know, that spend some of the money you're saving by going with a more commodity COTS-based solution on budgeting for much faster tech refreshes. That would be my advice. And then you have something which is up to date the whole time and very acceptable for people to train in, rather than kind of old simulators which are very pixelated and are a bit embarrassing to show people because they're 8 years old, kind of thing sometimes. So I think that would be the one thing I would say.
Thank you so much, Arthur. And the final, I'll throw that to you, Canton, about the idea of support over a long period of time, and how do customers kind of get that right balance between, not that they're mutually exclusive, but the balance between support and innovation.
Really quickly, because the answer from David and Arthur was were really good, but I can see more or less two things. The first one is the constraints you can, the customer can put in their requirement. It's as Arthur said, I want my simulator to be up to date until 2030, for example. So you have to answer with this in mind. You have to answer the tender with this in mind. Like, okay, the simulator will be in use for 8 to 10 years. So you have to put a product that will have to be updated, but also the hardware. So you have to think about it when if I'm a government, for example, you have to think about that before launching your tender. And on my side, I have to think about it when I'm building the architecture of a simulator, or when I'm choosing a technology against another. It's the first thing. And the second thing is always think ahead. If it's a pity for me when I see a customer of mine saying, I want to do one thing. Yes, you want to do this thing right now, but what about in 2 years or in 3 years? You have to think ahead, always. Because as Arthur said, technology is evolving really fast, and you know that as he said, when you see something you built 10 or 15 years ago, you do not want to share it to new customer. You want to share brand new things, and you have to think ahead.
Thank you so much. And I've got to meet my requirement, which is to finish at 1:30 the and the time has just flown by. So I had many more questions, but thank you. So I'll just wrap up. Just a reminder that the recording of this video will be made available very soon on YouTube, I understand. So do please share it with your colleagues who could not attend today. Also, you will have an opportunity to provide feedback on the event. I think the hope is that we'll have further, well, I know live, but further virtual events. So it'll be great to hear your views on this and what we can do for the community going forward. Now, you're probably aware there's a lot of work that goes on behind the scenes to run these virtual events. So I really want to thank Annalise and ST Engineering Antisip for volunteering their time and expertise to run this event. It is much appreciated. I also want to thank Ian and Wilkie from ETSA for their time and dedication too. A big thank you, of course, to our panel, fantastic panel, and for their time and insights and fantastic informative videos. It was brilliant to watch those. Thank you so much. So without your contribution, we could not make this happen. And last but not least, I want to thank you, the audience, for joining us today. I do hope you found it valuable and has helped you develop your strategies for beyond the pandemic. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.